Hello Ian, how's it going?
Very well, thank you.
Good, thank you so much for talking to us today. Now, I know that OnAir has had some interesting ups and downs in the last few years. Had some went with great guns with Ryanair, and then that didn't pan out. Where are you at in terms of customers and installations right now in the world fleet?
I think, Mary, today is... I've been in the company, as you know, since the 1st of June this year.
Yeah.
And I think what I've tried to really do is bring a totally new emphasis into what we're doing. And so clearly, I think we've got a number of new customers, etc. We've got a number of new airlines who are starting up. And I think what we'll do is we'll give you those separately, exactly all the airlines and exactly that we've got, so you can have those as we're going forward. We're very, very active with a number of major airlines today we're actually talking to. We're looking at providing, what we did before, the full service, GPRS, GSM, Wi-Fi, etc. But what I'm also trying to do is provide a lot more than that, is by looking at, how do we support this? How do we support the service? So one of the things I'm very much wanting to do is through, and this is with the help of CETA, is really create that we actually manage then the usage point, so we can track every single aircraft as it's flying. It's through a command centre. So if there's a problem, we can identify and then talk to the airline about what the problems are. And then behind us, from the equipment suppliers' point of view, we can then work with equipment suppliers to keep this as a service, because I think one of the problems, when I came to it, it was a little bit faced around, we're selling a service, etc. But we weren't service orientated. What I'm bringing is a real service orientation that the airlines are very interested in, is moving forward. And I think that adds a lot of value onto top of the equipment and the service that we're providing.
So you're saying if a customer is having any type of issue with the system itself, that there will be a rapid response to those concerns on the part of OnAir?
What we'll have is by the beginning of next year, we'll have set up something. So we're actually proactively, so if we start seeing a system going down, so it's no different than you'll see some of the health monitoring type of activity that airlines have on engines, we'll have a similar sort of thing for the service. Now today we have that already in place. So in the offices in Geneva and in the Seattle office, you can actually track the aircraft today, and you can actually look at to see, are they operating, how many people are operating, and that's it. So it's a fairly high level, but you can start to understand. I want to kind of make that more mechanical. So in an office in Montreal and potentially in Singapore, we'll have that for 24/7, 360 days, so we can track every single aircraft.
Right, now OnAir's GSM, GPRS and Wi-Fi services currently operate over Inmarsat's Swift Broadband, aeronautical service. I know that OnAir has said numerous times that you're keeping your eye on the market, on higher bandwidth connectivity, to potentially adopt that if and when you see a requirement. Where do you think things stand in that regard right now? Are you studying KU? With Inmarsat's announcement recently about jumping into KA, is there an expectation that you will follow suit into the KA market also in partnership with Inmarsat?
Well, I think today, as you know, we have a very, very close relationship with Inmarsat. And for me, KA, I think, is a great launch. It could not have come at a better time for me joining the company. Now, why do I say that? What we offer today is we use the L-band or SBB today through Inmarsat, which is a global coverage today. Now, what we've seen is, I believe that gives them more than enough capability today. But what's important about KA, if you need in the future a lot greater capability from bandwidth, also from the capacity that you need, you can then migrate to KA in the future. But that's only if you actually need to. So what for me is, and why that's so important, L-band and KA are totally linked together. Now if you speak to the satellite people in Inmarsat, they'll give you maybe a better definition than I do. But effectively what it means is it's a seamless transition to go from it. So from an aircraft point of view, the equipment we're using, more than 90% of it actually is the same. There's no change, because you already have the SATCOM on the long-range aircraft, so you're not adding an additional SATCOM. But the equipment itself on board operates exactly with L-band and KA in the future. So if you're an airline who uses an enormous amount of capacity because of what's happening in the industry, you could then migrate in the future to KA. All you have to do is input a SATCOM on top. We should have to do a KA SATCOM, and then you've got it. And what's good once you've got it if you're operating KA and you're flying your aircraft, Inmarsat can actually use the L-band satellite and the KA to actually beam in, so you're never out of capability or capacity. So it's totally redundant. So from my side of things, I think this is great, because what we're offering and giving the airlines now is a long-term vision about where you're going. So you invest in SBB today, actually you make the right decision, because you're enabling, you can go, if needed, to KA without changing equipment on the aircraft.
Without changing, well, obviously you'd need a KA antenna.
But that's it.
Yeah,
and
okay.
There's some small software changes, but other than that, and that's what we're doing.
Okay, and so essentially you'd have a carrier that has, and obviously the Swift broadband antennas are really slim. So you have the Swift broadband antenna, and then in tandem with what would arguably be also a slim KA band antenna. They're suggesting that they might be as small as an iPad by the time this rolls out. So it's not going to be a lot of weight and drag on the aircraft, right?
And that's exactly it.
Okay.
And what we're doing is I'm working with Inmarsat to look at that. We're also working with a number of other people to look at. So I proactively want to create that route, not just to move people from the L band to K. That's not what I want to do. I want to say, look, you make the right decision today with the right technology, which is SBB L band. And then what's so logical about it is, if you need them all, you can then go up to KA. And by us working and proactively, so when that becomes available as satellite, we will make sure that we can then allow airlines to migrate relatively quickly to that. So when the satellites are launched in 14, 15, we want to make sure that we can have the equipment available at that sort of timing. Because what normally historically happened is, people have waited the satellite, then they get the launch, then you do the development, then you go. Now, because of my background, what I want to see is, if I'm proactive, I can then show the airlines there's a logical route that you're going to go down.
Interesting. In the interim, until the 2014-2015 timeframe, do you have any interest at all in partnering with companies that are in the KU space to provide any kind of solution to carriers that might want something higher bandwidth? Is there any interest at all in doing that?
I think if a particular airline wants to go down a particular route, they want to use their service, yes, I will consider it, and I have been talking to someone about it. So I would fully support that if an airline wants and it wants our service. But again, my main drive is SBB to KA, because what I'm trying to show is this logical link.
Yeah.
But to answer the question again, yes, I would do it. If an airline wanted it and wanted our service, I would support it.
OnAir is an Airbus CETA joint venture, and the recent announcement in Hamburg, where Qatar Airways is bringing OnAir connectivity to its 787 twin jets, makes for an interesting story, because it means that a joint venture that's Airbus is involved in is going to be putting hardware on a Boeing aircraft. Is that a comfortable position to be in? Is it a unique position in any way?
This is a very difficult question. No, I think the reality is we are working very much very closely with Qatar. On this, we're working very closely with Boeing on a solution to satisfy this. It is today not an Airbus solution we're actually working with.
Okay. So can you explain that a little bit? So the hardware is not going to.
It is not going to be an Airbus solution.
Okay.
So when I spoke to you before, I said I'm looking for alternative solutions. That's exactly what I'm doing, because the market requires different solutions, and that's exactly what we're doing on here. There's a requirement from Qatar, there's a requirement from Boeing as well, and I was asked if I would provide the service, which I fully support.
Okay, so with respect to, so you're in the market for hardware partners, is that right?
That is correct.
Okay, that will provide the connectivity hardware for the solution that will go on the Qatar Airways 787s.
Exactly.
Excellent. Thank you for clarifying that. Thank you very much for letting us interview you.
Okay.
Take care.
Okay.